What's good with it, BlakGooseTV family, man? Double salute as always. It's your boy Fluence Boxing back in the building again, as always, with that good boxing news for my family members. What are we going to be talking about tonight? What's the main topic at hand? As y'all can see right next to me, Dmitry Bivol has a very interesting statement that he put out there to the boxing media that I want to get your opinion on, family. It's not about me tonight. Every video I'm going to be dropping tonight, I want to hear about what you guys think. I'm presenting this because hopefully y'all can get in the comments below, talk your shit, say what you got to say, because I'm very interested to see what you guys think on the particular topics I'll be bringing up tonight. This specific one, as you can see, coming from BoxingScene.com, Canelo is more powerful, punches more harder than Zurdo Ramirez. As we know, Dmitry Bivol is a newfound sensation to a lot of people who are not necessarily boxing hardcore fans. Most of you who aren't following or weren't following the light heavyweight division when it comes to the rise, when it comes to a lot of the prospects that were coming up. I'm one of the guys who always talked about, I remember Anthony Yard being talked about as next up in the division. I remember talking about them talking about Dmitry Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, Joshua Buatsi, like all these different names 4 to 5, 6 years ago, where they were talking about these guys being the future of the light heavyweight division. And now here we are, and we're seeing things shape out where it looks like the top guy is Beterbiev and Bivol right up under it. We got Anthony Yard, Buatsi is one of the guys who kind of fell out of the picture. But, with that being said, Ramirez was one of those under the radar guys at that 175-pound division where me personally, I was aware of Zurdo Ramirez, but I feel like he didn't really start getting a push maybe until the last couple of years. And he came on the scene and he was undefeated, a lot of fights, 40 plus fights, etc. And a lot of people saw Zurdo Ramirez to probably or possibly be the kryptonite to a lot of these guys at the light heavyweight division that we, if you were following it, they're at the top now. But, he kind of came out of nowhere to, some people, to me at least, maybe to you guys, he didn't. And a lot of people were saying, man, he's going to be the kryptonite to Bivol. He's going to be able to beat Beterbiev. He's way better than Yard. He's an absolute beast. He's big for the division. He towers over most light heavyweights. He has punching power, undefeated, etc. Well, as we know, Dmitry Bivol came out. Dmitry Bivol versus Zurdo Ramirez happened not too long ago. Bivol did easy work of Zurdo Ramirez. Wasn't even close, to be honest with you. Obviously, right before that, bringing Dmitry Bivol and his newfound fame when it comes to boxing, not necessarily hardcore fans, but the casuals to an extent, or maybe more the Canelo fans. After beating Canelo, a lot of people started talking about him. Then came into that newfound fame, and so. A lot of people are paying attention to what Dmitry Bivol has to say as of now, because we all understand that Bivol is at the top of the food chain when it comes to the light heavyweight division and kind of in boxing, period, since he does have that win over Canelo. Canelo is the biggest boxing superstar right now. Currently, he's making the most money, the biggest pay-per-view star, a lot of people would argue. So he is definitely Bivol's at the top of the food chain because he now has Canelo technically chasing him for that rematch rather than it being the other way around, where majority of boxers within the 160, 168 division, even the light heavyweight division, was chasing that Canelo money fight. Now it seems like the tables have turned a little bit. The chairs have been taken right out from underneath some people, and it looks like Canelo's going after Bivol, which makes Bivol a guy that you want to hear from when it comes to certain things being said when it comes to boxing, period, right? And this is something that I think was a very interesting statement. It puts a lot of things into perspective, or maybe it can even expose a little bit. Maybe we were reaching a little bit with Zurdo Ramirez and how good Zurdo Ramirez is, and maybe he's not that good because if you remember the fight, he didn't really show anything. He didn't really show that he's on that elite level. Like I think Zurdo Ramirez loses to Anthony Yard. I think Zurdo Ramirez loses to Beterbiev. I think Zurdo Ramirez has a lot of trouble with Buatsi. Like I think he has a lot of trouble with a lot of the top guys at light heavyweight, man. I even think Zurdo Ramirez, Joe Smith Jr. might be a tough fight for Zurdo, But even with that being said, this is the statement coming from Bivol once again, as per Boxing Scene. Canelo is a more powerful puncher, punches much harder than Zurdo himself, the much bigger Zurdo Ramirez. So first and foremost, family, what do you guys think about that? Is that is that mind blowing to you? It's like, no, it's expected. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on this? And I also want to ask you guys, do you think Zurdo was a little bit overrated? Do you think he was pushed to a point where it sounded good, but it didn't really look good? We kind of just all kind of, bought into the Kool-Aid, bought into the sugar, into the Kool-Aid, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to call it. What are you guys' opinion on this? Make sure you drop it below because I really want to hear what you guys think about this particular statement coming from Bivol. And then also, too, While you're doing that, man, show some love. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, road to 5K still before the end of the year. And even if we don't get there before the end of the year, we're still going to be trucking forward to get it. And of course, notification games so you know whenever I'm dropping stuff. And most importantly, like I said before, comment. I need to hear what you guys got to say. But let's get into this article from BoxingScene.com. The 2022 boxing calendar has been incredibly kind to Dmitry Bivol. While his overarching skills have always been lauded by boxing purists, the Russian native was mostly kept out of the public eye. But after racking up back-to-back notable wins against Zurdo Ramirez and pound-for-pound luminary Canelo Alvarez, Bivol's star power has skyrocketed. As the soon-to-be 32-year-old looks back on his terrific year, he begins to juxtapose the strengths and weaknesses of both Alvarez and Ramirez. Alvarez, of course, was widely regarded as boxing's premier star. After snagging every world title at 168, the Mexican product brazenly set his sights on Bivol and his WBA title. Though oddmakers and outside observers expected Bivol to fold under pressure, he stood tall in the face of adversity, winning a close but clear unanimous decision. In the case of Ramirez, the gargantuan light heavyweight contender stated time and time again that considering his all-around skills and size, the matchup against Bivol would end with his arms raised in triumph. Yet despite his bravado, a listless Ramirez was left bemused as Bivol boxed circles around the man. By and large, both Alvarez and Ramirez, 44-1, 30 KO, sauntered into their bouts against Bivol, believing that their deleterious knockout power could result in early night at the pugilistic office. Having felt the full brunt of their blows, Bivol, 21-0, 11 KOs, recently revealed which of those two fighters was the harder hitter. Here we go. Here's the main point. Here's the juice. Here's the meat of it. Listen up. Open your ears. Let's go. Canelo is a more powerful fighter, said Bivol during an interview on the DAZN boxing show. Canelo punches much more harder than Ramirez. Admittedly, though, Bivol was hopeful that he would one day be allowed to grace the ring with Alvarez. He remained skeptical until he was given the call. Nevertheless, in Ramirez, Bivol had a strong hunch that one day he would eventually tango in a light heavyweight clash against his former sparring partner. Bearing in mind Ramirez's height, reach, advantages, optimism grew with several notable names across the boxing globe sided with the gigantic contender. Bivol, though, turned a blind eye to Ramirez's physical gifts with a fairly one-sided decision tucked in his back pocket. The light heavyweight titles reveals that not only was Alvarez the harder puncher, but Bivol also confessed that at times he was able to take his foot off the gas pedal against Ramirez. To be honest, I spent a lot more energy in the fight against Canelo. I had to work every round. I had to win every round. With Ramirez, I thought I could make a pause and do it again. So that's basically the entirety of the article. Basically, for me to sum it up, Dmitry Bivol, he said, yes, Canelo's much more powerful puncher. He hits harder than him. And then also, he's basically saying he's a better boxer. Now, some of this may come into play because Ramirez and Bivol have been sparring partners for a good amount of time, right? So when you're going in there with your sparring partner, as we just saw with Deontay Wilder and Helenius, usually you know who the better man is before even going in there, right? So Bivol probably felt like he could take rounds off because he probably knew what Ramirez was going to bring and he knew how to handle it because he's been there, done that numerous times sparring him. Obviously, Canelo, bigger name, a lot more pressure. And then also the possibility of him, getting cheated out of a win, as we saw, was possible because the way the scorecards ended, even though he got a unanimous decision, the scorecards were ridiculous. He knew that he had to make sure he clearly won every round. So I don't really take that as a diss or a slight toward Ramirez. Maybe the fact saying Canelo was more powerful and punches harder, might be something, to take into consideration when it comes to, who we say Ramirez is and how much of a powerful KO artist he is. But I don't think him saying that he could take rounds off against Zurdo has anything to do with Zurdo being that much, significantly less talented than Canelo or him not being a good fighter. I just think that Bivol knew what was going on. He knew he was going to get himself into, being a sparring partner with him on numerous occasions, while Canelo, so much more pressure, the fans behind him, the judges behind him. He did an upset that night, right? And he had to make it clear and cut, because even when you make it clear and cut and it goes to the judges, it's still not going to be clear and cut. So that's how I take it. What do you guys think? How do y'all take it? Let me know below. BlakGooseTV family, hit me in the comment section on your thoughts on this entire article, on your thoughts on what Dmitry Bivol had to say. While you doing it, man, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not part of the family. Show your boys some love. Stay blessed, not stressed. On the Arnold Schwarzenegger side of the game, I will be back, but with more boxing. Much love to the people.